Hello, I'm JW, and this is another plug video. And this particular plug still in its original box there, and it's one of these things that claims to fit all socket outlets. There's a sort of little diagram of it there. Whether that is the case or not remains to be seen, so let's take it out of the box and have a look. Now here is the plug in its original box, the Fitall plug, 5-in-1, and made by RW Rumble GB Limited of Larne, Northern Ireland. The box is a bit tatty, but nevertheless the thing inside is still there. Now before we just have a look at the plug, let's have a look at the box itself. Now, as you can see here, it's got the various things on the outside here. So you've got the 15 amp 3-pin variety with the three sort of circular pins there. On this side we've got the 15 amp 2-pin, which is basically the same as this, except not having the earth pin there, and because the spacing is slightly different on those, they've actually done it with this slot down the middle, so you have to sort of mash the sides together in order to reduce the spacing so it will fit into the proper outlet correctly. Not exactly a very wonderful situation. On the other side there we've got the 13 amp 3-pin, the one that's used today with the flat 3 pins there, and the others here are the 5 amp 2-pin variety. Again, you have to mash the sides together to reduce the spacing. And of course on there the 3-pin variety, which is the same pins, just with the addition of the earth pin at the top. Now here's the plug itself, and as you see, this has a plate there, and it's got the various ratings and different types of pins marked on the back here. So you've got the rating numbers and the letter for the appropriate pin. So 15E there for the earth pin, 5E for the earth pin, and that's actually a concentric arrangement. So you've got the small pin in the middle, the larger one on the outside. The 13 amp pin, of course, is a separate one because it's a different shape. And then you've got your two flat pins there for the 13 amp plug, and then you've got your round pins here for the 5 and correspondingly 15 amp selections as well. This does have a fuse in down here. That would be necessary for the 13 amp variety, and of course the 5 as well, not for the 15, as that would normally be separately fused at the fuse box rather than in the plug itself. Now the idea of this is there's this sliding part here, and as you move it along it will cover or uncover the various combinations of pins, so that when you tip the thing up, only the pins you want will fall out. So if you put it over on that side, and then we'll get the 3 pins for the 15 amp selection. And the way that these work is you're supposed to basically screw these out in the wrong, or what would appear the wrong direction, and that will basically thread them into the base plate there, so that they'll obviously remain in the out position without just pushing back in again. So that's the 15 amp 3-pin variety, and the 2-pin style is simply the exact same thing, but then you're supposed to sort of crush the thing together like that to reduce the spacing, as the 2-pin ones have a narrower spacing than the 3-pin variety. And again, we put those pins back in out of sight. Now the 5 amp one, which is right at the other side there, has the smaller pins, so we can get those to come out, and again that's a similar deal where you just turn them to lock in position. Now the other one, the earth here, is actually a pin inside the large one, so let's just get the centre one there, not the outside piece. And again you've got the 3 pins there with the smaller diameter and of course the smaller spacing. That one doesn't want to come out fully there, that's better. So that's your 5 amp round pin variety, and interesting note is that they're actually set at an angle to the base plate itself. So if you put that sort of square on, you see that they're not actually parallel across the plug, so when you put this in it would be at a bit of a wonky angle on the socket there. As with the 15, if you take the earth pin away, and then you can squash the whole thing together, when theoretically you could then put that in, although trying to squash this together whilst simultaneously shoving it into a socket, not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do. Now the 13 amp one will use the flat pins there, and for that you're supposed to put it in the sort of middle position there, and then it will be the 3 pins there. Now the problem we've got here is trying to get it exactly lined up, and there we go. And you see the large round pin still falls out. Now these obviously can't screw in, so they basically just pull up on a spring and turn by 90 degrees and sort of hold in position there. And that's your 13 amp plug, which is the standard currently used today. Earth pin being longer, of course, than the 2 unsleeved in this case, as when this was made, sleeved pins were not required or even thought of. Now, although that will fit in, the problem is that these are just held in by a very slight turn there, so they're not particularly well secured. See, that one in particular is slopping all over the place, as is that. So, although it would probably fit, not the most wonderful piece of work at all. Now, on the front or other side of this item, it's got the manufacturer's name and the address, Coast Guard Road, Larne, Northern Ireland, and Fitall plug there. Patents pending, whether they were granted is another matter. Now I have actually got another one of these which is similar, but not quite the same. There's the other one there, so the basic back shape is the same, only the sides on this one of course are more angular. This has a more of a rounded shape. This is also one somewhat discoloured due to being fairly old. Basically it's the same idea on the back, although again you've got this much wider section here, and bizarrely the actual imprint of the 5 amp, 13 amp and whatever markings are substantially inferior on this one, and they're quite clear and distinct on that model. But again it's the same sort of idea, and you've got this sort of sliding piece here at the bottom which is supposed to move across and allow you to select the various different outlets, so this one appears to be jammed in position. Now the safety of this device relies entirely on this sliding plate, which will cover and uncover the various different holes as it's moved into position. So over here we've only got the 2 pins here which can be exposed. As it moves over, that's the position for the 3 flat pins at the top, and notice that although these can be exposed now, the piece of plastic has appeared across there, that being the live pin, and then as it moves a bit further, once it gets to the position where these 2 are exposed, again you've got the same piece of plastic across that pin there, and also on the 2 pins up here. So this side is the one that's most important, because if it was possible for one of these pins to be pulled out and then at the same time one of these could just slip forward, if you plug this into a metal socket outlet, this of course is live, and these are obviously also connected to the same terminals all inside, so if this was to poke out onto the face of a metal socket, basically you've got a live pin there shorting out onto the earthed metal socket, which obviously would cause a bit of a bang. Now this one seems to be fairly unused, so all of the sliding plastic pieces seem to be intact, but it's not difficult to imagine that just breaking at some point and then that pin just slipping forward when you plugged it in. And bearing in mind that it's literally as easy as that to have the pins falling in and out, so definitely something to be careful of if you were actually going to use one of these things. Now let's just have a look inside, see what's going on in there. So it's got some screws here. Now these just appear to be effectively wood screws with a tapered thread, and presumably just mash directly into the plastic. Another 2 here at the lower edge. Again, this is a sort of plug that you wouldn't be able to open and close that often, because after a while the plastic would obviously wear away and there wouldn't be anything to the screw thread to grip into. So there are just 4 small brass screws there. Now this plate here is just a separate component, just with that sort of cut out piece on the back for the sliding piece to fit into. Underneath we've got the sliding piece there, which of course just covers or uncovers the relevant holes there. And that just lifts away. That's just a thin sheet of insulating material. Let's have a look inside. Now at the bottom here we've got some sort of flex grip thing, it would seem. Yes, it's just a separate component there, but you just sort of stuff that around the incoming flex, tighten up the screw, and that would presumably prevent it just pulling through the hole at the bottom. Not apparently attached to the plug itself in any way. There's not even anywhere for it to attach, so yeah, it would just sort of clip around in there, and just by the fact it's clamped on the flex would prevent it from pulling out. As you see, all of the terminals will come together, so 3 there, 3 there, and of course the 2 concentric earth pins and the flat one at the top. So the earth will connect to this screw here. Neutral would connect to that one on the side there. In fact, this whole piece, yeah, it's just a single piece of metal, so that's your neutral terminal there. This plate has a thread in those 2 holes, so those pins would come up and then screw into that from underneath. The other one, of course, would just turn at a 90 degree across there and just hold in place with the spring. Earth pin, similar arrangement, just a threaded section in the middle, and then the square pin again just on a spring-loaded thing at the back. Now this side is basically the same, again the 2 holes and the one to twist by 90 degrees, but we've also got the fuse situation here. So there is the fuse, the original Fitall branded one, 13 amps, 1362, which is the same type of fuse as used in modern plugs. That is just a press fit onto that screwed piece there, and in the bottom it just sits down into that cup there. The incoming wire, of course, would fix to this screw terminal here, so it would go via the fuse and then onto the plate to whichever of the 3 pins that you were using at the time. Now this is actually the earth pin assembly here, with the wire would connect to this threaded post there, and this is one of the square pins, which of course ordinarily would be fitted through this hole. So the locking mechanism is incredibly simple. You've just got this spring on the back which will pull against that plate, and when it gets far enough you'll be able to rotate it, and then it just fits into a groove on the back there, so it's reasonably well locked in place. It's not desperately secure. As you can see, it's still got a considerable amount of movement there, and then to release again it's just pull and then rotate, and then it will fit back through the hole and just go back down inside. The actual pins here, again, a similar deal to the other ones in that they just pull forward, and by rotating they will actually thread into here, and then of course they won't press back in without being unscrewed. And the other one, of course, it's the same. It just has to be inside of the other one, so you can just put that one back in, rotate this one, and then that one's locked in. The other one just slips back inside the tube at the end there. This is the neutral one, and it just has the solid brass pin there. So there's 2 separate sizes, and it comes through from the back, so this is the side we'd normally see, and so there's a threaded section here, and that just threads into the hole in the plate. So you put it forward, and from this side it appears you're actually unscrewing it, but of course from that way you're actually just turning anti-clockwise on one side, but clockwise on this side. That just tightens in there, and that's actually a reasonably secure fixing there. Again, would undo, it's just unscrew, and then it would fall back into the casing of the plug. So look there at the Fitall plug. It does actually come with some little instructions here of how to attach the wiring to the device and select the various different pins. I'll put a link in the description below to a more obvious copy than this, rather than trying to read it from this crumpled piece of paper. And the final point on here is rather interestingly that the plug itself has the word Fitall on there, and likewise the instructions do. And the word Fitall only has 1 T, so it's literally fit and all. So whoever designed the box made a bit of a mistake, and they put fit and another T in there, so it's Fitall. Until next time, thanks for watching.